Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Teo here, back with more Ever17. We are currently in the middle of the True Route, and currently we are a little bit, or at least I'm a little bit confused as to why they're showing me the content they're showing me. Because right now this is just a sort of a complete what's the word I'm looking for? Retelling, I guess? Like, nothing has changed between the times in Takeshi's routes when Tsugumi got the pole through her leg or whatever, and what's happening right now. Like, nothing has changed. So I'm not sure why they're showing me this. I assume it will become obvious at some point, but it is not yet obvious, so I guess I should read on so I can quell my confusion. I set myself down on a nearby chair. Is Tsugumi gonna be... Koko was holding on a peepee, but looked as if she was having a hard time relaxing. You let them know right away, so she should be fine. Really? Koko's eyes were moist. It was hard to tell, but she had probably been crying moments earlier. Even still, she tried to smile. Hey, you think Tsugumi's gonna be okay, right? Still looking worried, she tilted her head as she asked me. Yeah, she'll be fine. Absolutely okay? Koko put her head on my shoulder. I held Koko close and patted her head softly. She's gonna be okay, right? Right? Her body trembled, and she asked me this over and over. I thought maybe she'd been trying not to cry until that moment. Koko, head pressed against my chest, started crying. Interesting, so we just switch back to the kid's point of view? Huh? Kid, what are you crying about? Wait, what the fuck? Okay, I mean, I assume it's, like, circumstantial, right? It's, I'm not actually supposed to derive, like, any sort of real meaning from this, but man. I got baited super hard there for a second. I was like, wait a minute. What if... And then I'm like, no, wait, no, it's probably just a scene transition. Although, if it isn't, like, if that wasn't just a scene transition, like, one of two things is happening. Either there's, like, some sort of weird empathic link between the kid and Koko. No, but that doesn't make sense either, because... like, they're not even chronologically adjacent. They're in, like, different timelines. Based on the kid's age, the kid's roots take place, like, later in time than Takeshi's roots. Man, I'm super confused. Kid, what are you crying about? Huh? Did someone pick on you? I know, it's Takeshi, isn't it? I shook my head back and forth. So, it's not you then? I kept shaking my head. Alright then, Tsugumi. Again, I shook my head back and forth. Well, it couldn't be. Sora? No, nobody's picking on me. So why are you crying then? Wait, that... Okay. It's... I was looking wildly around in all directions. We were in front of the emergency room. Sarah was standing right in front of me. But I didn't see anyone else. Hmm? I said nothing, but ran into the room. No one was there. She wasn't lying on the examination table. Hey, why'd you run away? Sarah's eyebrows were raised questioningly. I didn't run away. I just, wanted to check something is all. What? I stood to the side of the table and slid my hand across its surface. There was no warmth. Her femur is fractured, and it looked like it might be compound. That and the artery is severed. She'll need sutures. I'll do my best. Do we have anesthetic? I'll get it ready. The laser scalpel, forceps, and sutures. Everything we need is already in the room. Takeshi! You're in the way! All these voices jumped back and forth in my head. Voices, voices, voices. I twisted my head and turned, looking around the inside of the emergency room. Looking slowly. The noise from before seemed like a dream. It seemed. What am I thinking? It was only a dream. Just a dream. Hey, tell me. What do you want to check? I looked straight into Sarah's eyes and answered. I wanted to see if it was real or a dream. What? I had a terrible dream. About what? Tsugumi hurt her leg really bad. Then there was flooding in the storage area, and when she went to fix it, a big chunk of metal fell on her. And then Tsugumi, her leg got trapped by the metal. And she got a huge gash on her right thigh. I could see the yellow of her fat, the red color of her muscle, and white bone. Wow, that's gruesome. Her artery, lymph nodes, even nerve endings all hanging out and pulsating like rubber tubes. Man, I'd need to read that. The whole area was covered in a sea of blood. Ew. Yeah, I'm with Sarah on this one, like, pretty emphatically. Makes me feel sick just hearing about it. How can you talk about that kind of dream so calmly? Well, it's not as if I wanted to see it. So that's what you decided to run into here all of a sudden? Okay. So that makes sense now in retrospect why we were seeing that scene again. Is because it wasn't just us seeing the scene again, it was the kid seeing the scene for the first time. Well, I guess it's possible that you'd start bawling your head off after seeing a dream like that. Bawling? Was I crying? Of course you were, like a hysteric 3-year-old. That's when I realized. On my cheeks and chin there was something that felt cold. There was a small drop of moisture sparkling on my eyelash. I hurriedly wiped away my tears. So, I had been crying. It had all happened while I was sleeping, so I had no idea why I'd been crying. Hey, kid? Something bothers me. You just said the warehouse started flooding, right? Yeah. That actually happened. What? While you were sleeping, a pipe burst in the storage room and water started flooding in. When I was sleeping? What was that supposed to mean? I couldn't fully grasp what was going on from what I'd heard. My mind froze. But don't worry, okay? It got fixed without any hitches. What about Tsugumi? I didn't think it was possible, but I asked anyway. She's fine, of course. She did most of the repairing. Really? For some reason, I felt relieved. I wondered if it was because my dream had been so real. No, wait. Dream? Why would I have a dream about the warehouse flooding? I was sleeping. As though she had read my thoughts, Sarah said. But still, it's kind of strange, you know? You didn't have an out-of-body experience, did you? She said as if she were making fun of me. But honestly, Sarah probably didn't take the possibility seriously. My mind was turning slowly, but hadn't started working normally again. Something was preventing me from thinking. Out-of-body experience. If I could do that, I could peep down girls' underwear all I wanted. Really? You're in like a life-or-death situation, dude. Like, there is a thing in the world called priorities. And, I think yours might be a little bit messed up. I made a stab at a joke. The fact that I could do so surprised me somewhat. Moron. Even if you could look up somebody's skirt, you don't look down people's underwear. Smack. Sarah whacked me on the head a couple of times. Thinking the whole situation odd, I started to laugh. But you seem like you're doing better. I was really worried last night that you were going to die or something. But you seem fine now. What, you don't remember? You fell over and were foaming at the mouth. What? Yeah, and you were flailing around on the ground like an upside-down crab. Snip, snip. By the time Takeshi called us all together, you were already like that. All we could do was pick you up, carry you into the infirmary. Got it? I got it. You probably don't remember, but it was really intense. You really had us worried there. Sarah slapped me gently on the cheek. My head turned to the side with force. And from that position I asked, Hey, where was I passed out? In the changing room, in front of the mirror. Oh, yeah. That was, probably slightly traumatic. I don't know why the kid's so surprised, though. Like, I guess the same thing that's giving him the information about what's going on in Takeshi's route also gave him sort of an estimation of how old he thought he was supposed to be. So he's, like, weirded out by the fact that he isn't the age he thinks he's supposed to be. But without the weird, like, out-of-body experiences, like, he shouldn't really have a good sense of what age he is, right? Like, that's part of the whole amnesia thing. So it's slightly weird to me that he was as surprised as he was by the mirror. The changing room. It was a rectangular room, and stuck to the back wall was a large mirror. The bench had been returned to its original position. I walked up to the mirror. I didn't recognize my face. I didn't recognize this kid. I touched my eyebrow with my right hand. He touched his eyebrow with his left hand. A, B, C, D, E. The sounds that I uttered came to my ears. The kid in the mirror mouthed the exact same words, but of course I couldn't hear his voice. I reached out my left hand to touch him. He put out his right hand and did the same thing. My nails hit the hard surface of the glass with a click, but I couldn't reach him. Looking closely, I could see a face floating over his left shoulder. 2 pairs of eyes stared intensely at me. It had to be an evil spirit, or it could be Sarah. Maybe he was even being possessed. It's so sad, he's being taken over by a demon. As soon as I said that to myself, I realized that he was looking at me. What? I'm being possessed? Hey! Ah, Sarah! I jumped about 3 feet in the air, bending backwards as I leapt. When did you get here? 'Tis but a simple thing to conceal the pitter-patter of my steps. Really? Apparently, the person who'd been looking over my shoulder was Sarah. Well, you didn't say anything, you just took off. So you went and followed me? Yep. Sarah had grabbed onto her tied-up hair with both hands and was swinging it back and forth. So, what's with the mirror? She pointed to the mirror with the tip of her hair. Well, what? I pulled Sarah by the arm over to stand in front of the mirror. Both of our images were reflected on the mirror's surface. The left and right side of her face was reflecting back in reverse. There was no mistaking that it was her. My face, on the other hand. Hey, who's that reflected in the mirror? Huh? I don't understand the question. This kid. The kid standing next to you. Who is he? We started with this again, eh? Come on, I'm being serious. Is this really my face? Well, if it isn't your face, whose face is it? I guess you're right. I knew the answer, but I still had needed to check. This kid was me. The face reflected in the mirror was mine. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. But I'm also not fine. Which one is it? A pouting Sarah was in the mirror. I looked at her figure in the reflection. She looked back at me. Our gazes intersected and overlapped at the same space at the same time. I couldn't remember my own face. I couldn't remember, and I still can't remember it. Of course, I understand that the person reflected in the mirror is me. But how can I say it? It doesn't feel real. I see. That's why I passed out in front of the mirror last night. The face reflected back at me in the mirror felt like someone else, someone I didn't know. But that shouldn't be enough to make you foam at the mouth, don't you think? I mean, if you looked into the mirror and suddenly were hopelessly ugly, even I would faint, but your face isn't that bad. I mean, you'd think that you'd be relieved and think, you know, I've got a pretty nice looking face. Sarah glanced at the mirror and took a good look at my face. You know, it's weird, that's how I feel every time I stand in front of a mirror. I mean, if you had to say one way or the other, I like your face. Or if I had to say one way or the other, I like your face. And, so saying, Sarah pointed the tip of her hair at me. Do you want to know why? I think you look a little like me. I look like you? I stared intently at Sarah's face. You don't think so? Suddenly, a vast whirling pattern came into my mind. It spun round and round, paralyzing my ability to think. I don't think so. It took all my will to mumble just that. Really? I think our eyes look the same. Hey, why are you making such a sour face? I'm giving you a compliment. Amusingly, like, in this drawing here, the eyes don't look the same, right? The kid's eyes are sort of sloped up, whereas Sarah's eyes come back down. I think I knew the word for that at some point, but I've forgotten. But, like, the slope of their eye is completely different. Or maybe I guess you could say I'm giving myself a compliment. Sarah started smiling shyly. And then, all of a sudden, she tickled my nose with the tip of her hair. Hey, what are you doing? I jumped back away from her. Sarah smiled mischievously. The smell of her hair seeped into my mind. It was a smell somehow so familiar, almost animal and private. The conference room. I was sitting in a chair, stuffing my mouth with a chicken sandwich. Chicken which sand? What? I'm super confused. I'd grown bored of the chicken sandwiches, so I invented my own version. A slice of bread between two pieces of meat. Okay. It was definitely a needed change of pace. Wait. That helps? I'm so confused. Sarah was sitting directly in front of me. Sarah was eating straight from a head of lettuce with nothing but ketchup as a topping. What? Why? I mean, amusingly, I actually have a friend who does this. He just eats whole heads of lettuce. But, like, why would you put ketchup on it? Muttering in a voice so small I could barely hear, she was saying, I'm not getting enough vegetables. I'm just not getting enough vegetables. Say, where'd everyone else run off to? With ketchup smeared around her lips, Sarah answered me. Sora's in the control room, Naku's in the security office. As for Takeshi, I saw him riding the merry-go-round, goofing off by himself. As for Tsugumi, MIA as usual. Now that the repairs in the warehouse are finished, I guess everybody's taking a breather. So what do you plan next, Sarah? Nothing special, really. Maybe I'll just sit here and wait to be rescued while I eat this lettuce. Sarah kept munching the lettuce, making a crunching sound as she bit into the core. By the way, Sarah, what were you doing up till now? Watching over you, kid. Watching over me? Last night, after we carried you to the infirmary, we all took turns watching you. We were worried you might suddenly go on a rampage or something, so we took every precaution. Until a minute ago, it was my turn to watch. Except in the split second I turned my back and you up and disappeared. I wondered what was going on and left the infirmary to find you, and... When you found me crying? That's right. Finishing off my sandwich, I reached to the lettuce in Sarah's hand and ripped off a leaf. Using my index finger, I wiped off some excess ketchup smeared around Sarah's mouth, dabbed it on my lettuce, and ate it. That's lewd. What should I do next? I muttered to myself. Just sitting here is getting boring. We're going on an adventure. Well, I guess I'll take Sarah to visit the warehouse. Had there really been an accident which had flooded the warehouse, I wanted to see for myself. Sarah? Yeah? Think you could join me for a bit? Okay, but... do you mind waiting until I'm through with my lettuce? Sarah spoke with her face still covered in ketchup. Sure. I decided to wait for Sarah to finish her meal. While waiting, I asked her a question. So tell me, why ketchup and not dressing? Her answer was straightforward. Because I like tomatoes. I don't know if that's a good reason. Like, ketchup, doesn't even taste like tomatoes, right? It tastes like tomatoes a little, I guess. But, I think they're fundamentally very different flavors. It tastes like the sun, don't you think? Whatever you say, Captain. Inside the warehouse, the air was filled with a sticky, humid smell. And the floor was covered with enough water to just cover our shoes. Around the room lay pipes, many of which looked to have been recently welded to repair damage. So there really was some kind of flooding in here. Huh? Didn't you believe me when I told you? Of course I believed you, but... there's a difference between hearing something and seeing it for yourself. I mean, there's way more impact. Impact? You know, the impact from realizing I saw this all in a dream. Like premonition. Well, I don't know if I could call it a premonition or not, but... I mean, Tsugumi didn't get hurt, right? Yeah? And besides... I said this and stopped, sweeping my eyes across the room. The scene was almost exactly as I had dreamed it, but one thing was different. There had been a pile of scrap metal stacked high, but now it was stacked on the floor. In my dream, the warehouse was completely submerged in water. But by the looks of it here, everything seems fine. I wonder if you could still call that a premonition. Beats me, I have no idea about things like that. Sarah? Was the warehouse arranged like this from the start? Huh? See those containers and metal pipes lined up over there? I asked her while pointing to the rows of scrap metal. Were those stacked up in one tall pile before? You can't expect me to remember all the details. Yeah, I guess you're right. Besides, at one point, nothing else seemed out of place. Except, I was amazed how calm I felt analyzing the situation. Premonitions, Phantom Girl, the Mirror Affair, amnesia. Considering the countless number of strange things I'd experienced, I was surprisingly calm. Not thinking such strange events as strange was, in itself, strange. Was I just desensitized to everything? Or maybe I just had never been the type to think too deeply about things. I didn't know why, but I felt fine about the situation. I walked a loop through around the entire warehouse and returned to where I started, only to find Sarah was gone. At the same moment, I heard a sound. Bang, bang, bang. Like something pounding powerfully against a steel wall. I searched for the origin of the sound. Oh, so this is like the hidden room in the back of the warehouse, right? Where the kid had his, little vision quest in Sarah's route. A small door suddenly jumped into my field of vision. In front of the door stood Sarah. Sarah! I let out a yell and ran to her. What happened? I asked, standing by Sarah's side. Nothing. What do you mean? Sarah acted like there was nothing out of the ordinary. In fact, she seemed so normal that normal didn't begin to describe it well enough. The bashing sound continued unabated. It was coming from beyond the door. It sounded like someone was throwing their body against the door. And they weren't holding back. It was an explosive force, almost animal in intensity. The sound reverberated to the core of my body, rattling my brain. Who is it? Hey, who's there? I yelled at the door. What? Confused, Sarah reached out and touched the door panel. The door opened. Nobody's in here. The room inside was dark. But before I could turn on the lights, I could tell that there was no one inside. So then, what was that noise just now? I turned around and looked at Sarah. Hey, what is it this time? I have no clue what you're talking about. What do you mean, no clue? I'm just asking what the noise was just now. What noise? A noise. You know, noise? The sound of someone ramming into the door? That noise. I'm tired. What? No, really, I'm tired of putting up with your... Sarah said this to me with a scornful look on her face. What are you talking about? That's exactly what I want to ask you. That's exactly what I want to ask you. What are you talking about? First you knew my name, then you predict the future. Then you see little girls who aren't there. When you look in the mirror, you think you're a different person. Now you're hearing sounds that aren't there. I'm sorry, but I can't keep putting up with this. Hearing sounds that aren't there? You mean you couldn't hear it, Sarah? I shouldn't have to answer, but... No, I didn't hear it. So why were you standing in front of the door? Like I've been saying, no special reason. I was just wondering what's beyond the door, that's all. You serious? Why would I lie about something like that? If there's a place on a map you'd never been to, wouldn't you want to go there? If there's an unopened treasure box, wouldn't you want to open it? I've played enough Dark Souls to be deeply, deeply skeptical of unopened treasure boxes. If there's a person in the town that you lived in who you never talked to before, wouldn't you want to say something to that person? Oh, I see. Sarah's discomfort showed clearly on her face. Her eyes were frightened. So Really, I don't know, it came over me. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. I decided to play it off by laughing. Not thinking strange events as strange was becoming not so strange after all. When enough coincidences happen one after another, they stop being coincident and start being... When enough coincidences happen one after the other, they stop being coincidence and start becoming unavoidable. What's more, having encountered strange phenomena so often they seemed like old acquaintances, I started to think that nothing could faze me. What a time to suddenly become philosophical. Spiritual awakening, enlightenment, nirvana. Felt like there was nothing left to be afraid of. My laughing voice reverberated throughout the room. Ouch, that really hurts. It seemed my laughing had only proved to increase Sarah's frustration and doubt in me, but I didn't care. And the look she gave me, like I was some kind of weirdo, well, that didn't bother me either. I began to dance lightly, circling around the small room like a Polynesian tribal dancer. Okay, so kid's gone completely off the deep end. But it made me dizzy, so I stopped. Out of breath, I leaned against the nearest wall for support. In front of me, I noticed a small square window. From outside the window, faint moonlight shone in. No, moonlight? Sarah must have noticed the direction of my gaze because she began to walk toward the window. Speaking toward her backside, I said, "Why would there be a window in a place like this?" Huh? Sarah's feet stopped. "This looks like a window to you?" she said as she spun around. Isn't it a window? Because the light. Light? Sarah shuffled backwards and planted her back against the wall. You just said light, didn't you? Yeah. It looked like it's shining light to you? As if being called by the light, I began to walk toward it. I knocked a few times against the window with my knuckles. I stopped in front of the window. Except, it wasn't a window at all. It was a steel door buried in the wall. Hey, will you answer my question? Does it look like a light is shining? Yeah, it does. Sarah stood beside me and put her hand on the steel door. I also reached out and placed the flat of my hand on the door. The door seemed to sizzle with a penetrating heat. Without changing our pose, our eyes met. Sarah started to speak, but hesitated. She then opened her lips to try again, but stammered. Her breathing became rough. She seemed a little agitated. A red light seemed to emanate from her body. So why does it look like it's shining? It was a very innocent, almost naive question. Without answering me, Sarah removed her hand from the door. I removed mine as well. 2 faint handprints were left imprinted on the square steel door. Kid, can you see this? Muttering, Sarah gently removed something from her pocket. A flame burned. In an instant, the whole scene changed and Sarah's face was lit up in red. I realized that what Sarah had taken out was a pendant and a lighter. Without saying a word, Sarah brought the flame and the pendant in front of my eyes. Inside the pendant floated a holographic image of a man who I had never seen before. Who's this? When I asked this, Sarah's hand began to quiver. The flame shimmered. And from this, a large shadow was projected on the wall, which also flickered. So, you can see it too. Click. Sarah shut the lighter. Kid, the other day, when Naku tried to open the door to the generator room, you stopped her, right? Yeah. How come? Why'd you stop her? Hold on, wait a second. Weren't you just telling me how tired you were of all my premonitions and illusions? Premonitions? So that was a premonition? I can't say, I don't really know. It's just that I thought it would be dangerous for her to open the door. Sarah looked at the ceiling. She then looked at the square door in the wall, and the pendant held tightly in her hand, then finally looked slightly upward into my eyes. There was a long silence. Sarah looked deep in thought, or maybe as though she wasn't thinking anything. The only sound was her steady, measured breaths. At last she spoke. Yeah, couldn't be, right? Sarah took a deep breath and put away the lighter and pendant. We left the room. Sarah took a big stretch. I repeated my question to her. Sarah, whose image was that in the pendant? As she walked toward the exit, she answered. Person from the sun. Huh. After that, Sarah and I headed to the conference room. We didn't have any specific objective in mind. Actually, we made for the conference room because we didn't have any objective. It wasn't that anyone had said we would meet there, somehow it just became our meeting place and hangout. We were all there. Sora and Takeshi teased me, saying that the night before I'd been flailing around like a crab on its back. They said I had worried them, but they thought I looked better. It was almost exactly the same thing I had heard from Sarah. They asked why I'd gone crazy when I saw the mirror, but I avoided giving them a clear-cut answer. I didn't think that I could get them to understand a situation as complex as that by telling them the real reason. It appeared that Takeshi and Sora were satisfied by my evasive explanation. And then small talk started. Strangely, we only talked idly, gossiping about things and not touching on Limo at all. We talked about the best movies we'd ever seen, and why do whales strand themselves on the beach in groups. And what was the truth behind the assassination of JFK, as well as whether forks or chopsticks were better. Topics changed often, and we talked about a wide range of things, from the serious to the silly. In short, we were just killing time. We tried to fill in the time by keeping our mouths moving. I didn't participate much in the conversation. I just kind of nodded from time to time and laughed along with everyone. It's not as though I was necessarily thinking about anything else. I just thought of it all as a painless way to kill time. In the group, there was one other person who was just as quiet as myself, even more so, since she didn't open her mouth once. It was Tsugumi. Tsugumi looked as furious as ever. She had a constantly dissatisfied look, making it seem as if she had been dissatisfied from the day she was born, and was probably destined to stay that way. I figured that if she were that annoyed, she shouldn't come to where everyone gathered, but of course I couldn't say that to her. Tsugumi glanced at me at a rate of once every 2 minutes. That's oddly specific. In the afternoon 2 days before, the 1st of May, she had been short with me. She had told me not to talk to her. However, her looking at me about once every 2 minutes was totally at odds with those words, and seemed like a sign saying, "Speak with me." Her glances unnerved me, and I was unable to focus my attention on the conversation. Eventually, the 4 others got tired of talking, and gradually the conversation slowed down. Finally, the talking ground to a halt completely. 5 hours had passed since we'd come to the conference room. Remember, kids, as I keep saying, it's only awkward if you let it be awkward. Everyone was silent. You rested her chin on her hands and watched a plant in the corner of the room. Sarah put her face on the table and closed her eyes. Takeshi stood by the window and stared at the ocean. Sora wasn't there. She had gone back to the control room. Tsugumi had just stood up. She headed toward the exit. She touched the panel to open and close the door. Just before she left the room, she looked at me again. It bothered me. I couldn't let it not bother me. After a while, Tsugumi had gone out. I'm going to the bathroom. Saying that to everyone, I followed Tsugumi. I followed the sound of water splashing and soon found Tsugumi. She was walking ahead of me in a curved corridor. I ran to Tsugumi and asked her, "Hey, why do you keep looking at me?" Tsugumi didn't stop walking. She didn't even look at me. I stepped ahead of her and stood in her way. "You were shooting sideways glances at me, right? And then you glanced at me when you left the conference room. So what?" Well, yes, I was looking at you. But you watched me as well, didn't you? If not, you wouldn't have noticed my glance." "You're right. So we're even. I don't know if it's a question of being even or not. But you started watching me first. Is that a problem?" No problem, but... What, are you afraid you'll turn into a pillar of salt if someone looks at you?" "No." "Fine then." Saying that, Tsugumi started to walk. I blocked her way, holding out my arm. "Wait a minute. Don't change the subject. What I wanted to know was the reason why you were glancing at me. Do I need a reason? Do you need a reason to look at someone?" "You're trying to change the topic again. Then why are you asking me such a stupid question?" "Because I want to know." "To know what?" "About you, Tsugumi." "Tsugumi, you want to say something to me, don't you?" Tsugumi looked down. She dragged her legs slightly on the ground and behind her. There, ripples spread over the surface of the water. Tsugumi's eyes followed the direction of the ripple spreads absently. She looked up. We stared at each other. Tsugumi pushed her hair back softly with her little finger and said, "I have many things I want to say, but I can't say them yet." She spoke in a mild, calm tone. "Hey, Tsugumi, why do you keep trying to hide so many things? You can't trust us yet?" "No." "Then why'd you help us with repairs when the flooding accident happened today?" "I didn't help you." "What?" "I did the repairs and everyone else helped me." "You can look at it any way you want, it's not important. What's important is that you tried to help us anyway, right?" "Yes." Tsugumi said it simply. "I just don't trust you guys. It's not that I have a grudge against you. There's nothing special about helping someone during an emergency, is there? I don't care what happens myself, but I can't just sit doing nothing when someone's gonna die. Especially in circumstances like this." It was an unexpected answer. Little by little, Tsugumi might have been seeing our side of things. "Alright then. I'll ask you a different question. You show yourself around us even though you're saying you don't trust us, right?" If you doubt us, you don't have to hang out with us. You can act on your own. Tsugumi, you actually want to be buddies with us, don't you? I was kind of taking a gamble. If she'd answer back something like, fine, if that's what you want, I'll never show my face again, then that would have been the end of things. I waited for her reaction. Tsugumi laughed. She kept shaking her head and laughing hard. What's so funny? Because you said buddy. We're not school kids, you know. I am much older than you think. Tsugumi covered her mouth as she kept laughing. Hey, stop laughing! I'm being serious! If I'm wrong, then what is it? If you don't want to be buddies with us, then why do you come to where everyone is? Do you want to know why? Yeah. I can tell you why if you want, but I want you to answer this question in exchange. Do you know about Jewel Chocolate? No? What? Jewel Chocolate. No. I don't know. I answered honestly. Jewel Chocolate is an ordinary candy bar. Only the special thing is a toy ring comes with a candy as an extra surprise. I see. There are 34 types of the toy rings in total. If you want to collect all the rings, then you have to keep buying the candy. Or you can go on eBay. But don't you think that's a little odd? The relationship is backwards here. Really, the chocolate should be the primary reason for buying the candy and the ring should be secondary. But for people that collect rings, the chocolate is kind of a secondary benefit. So you mean the chocolate becomes something extra after the rings? What is she, like, alluding to here? Like, obviously, there's, like, another layer of meaning behind just the anecdote. But I'm not sure what she's getting at. That's right. But, so what? What does that have to do with what we were talking about? Don't you get it? I tilted my head. The primary reason that I go to everyone is not to see them. Tsugumi stopped talking. The smile was gone from her face. She stared at me with a serious look. It was a tense look. Just looking at her deep and dark-colored eyes, I felt as if I were about to be absorbed. But I couldn't look away. I couldn't even budge. My body was stiff like a pillar of salt. I'm just collecting rings. The chocolate is an added benefit. As she said that, I don't know why, but suddenly she touched my ear. She traced the outline of my ear and pinched my earlobe tenderly. What? In that moment, my body burst into fragments. I don't remember what happened after that. What? I'm so confused. I just found myself in the middle of the corridor standing in a daze. Tsugumi had disappeared at some point. I'm just collecting rings. Tsugumi's voice echoed in my head. I wobbled back to the conference room. When I entered the room, only you and Sarah were there. They were lying on the table and breathing as if they were asleep. Their legs were facing me. I could almost see their underwear. But I was not interested in it. Good boy. Not interested. I pretended not to be interested. I walked to the side of the table and shook Yu's body slightly. You opened her eyes, rubbing one of them with her hand. Hey, kid, welcome back. You'll catch a cold sleeping in a place like this. I'm alright. Maya's body is, warm, so, Saying that, you hugged Sarah's body tightly. Sarah said something in delirium, but she didn't seem to wake up. I figured they both had to be tired. Where's Takeshi? I think he went to the merry-go-round. You mean the merry-go-round with the dolphins? Yeah. That's what he said before he left. Did he go alone? As I asked, I realized that I'd already known the answer. Tsugumi was in the control room. Sora was in the control room. I'd met Tsugumi a minute ago. You and Sarah were holding each other like koalas in front of me. He went alone. You answered me. Alright then. Can you let me sleep now? I'm having a nice time. Having a nice time? You must have been half in a dream. She closed her eyes slowly. I went up the emergency stairs and headed for the merry-go-round. I thought briefly that it would be nice to go to sleep between you and Sarah, but unfortunately I was not sleepy at all. Wow. That's lewd. Besides, I was curious about what Takeshi was doing at the merry-go-round. If I remembered right, Takeshi had been sitting on a dolphin earlier in the day as well. Sarah had told me that. I wonder if riding on the merry-go-round alone was fun. For something fun for him, Takeshi was kind of freaky. I am the king of a dolphin kingdom! I could imagine Takeshi having fun by himself. But if he wasn't there for his amusement, then I wanted to know the reason why he was going to the merry-go-round so often. Anyway, I was itching to find out the truth. That's why I didn't mind climbing up 51 feet of stairs. I came out on a straight corridor. After I walked a while, I could see a door on the left side. There was a dolphin merry-go-round through the door. The door had been left open. I sneaked into the room trying not to make a sound. Takeshi was there. He was alone as I expected. Takeshi was all alone. Where are you? Hey, you! Oh, come on, what is this? He was wandering around in front of the merry-go-round as he screamed nonsense. It was as if he were chasing something invisible. He might have thought that he was chasing butterflies over a flower garden. That was what it looked like to me. You've known it all along, right? There's no way I can catch you. No matter how hard I try, I can't catch you. Wait. What? Please don't tell me the two halves of the story are, like, happening simultaneously in the same place. There's no way. And then, like, RSD bullshit fills in the gaps? There's no way. There's no way. Takeshi was talking to a fake dolphin, tropical fish, and seaweed. There's obviously something wrong with him. He was sicker than I imagined. Because this is the conversation he has in Sora's route with Sora, right? When he and Sora are playing tag, and Sora keeps, like, teleporting because she's a cheater. It was no time to laugh. I was paralyzed with fear. I didn't even have the presence of mind to feel sorry for him. He's gone crazy because he's locked up in a place like this. We didn't even notice, but somewhere along the line he just snapped. Is something wrong? Are you worn out? Nothing's bad happened, has it? It seemed that Takeshi was worried about the dolphins. I clasped my hands together as if in a prayer pose. I decided to leave without saying anything. I decided to pretend I hadn't seen it and keep it to myself. No, there's no way they can be happening simultaneously in the same place, though, right? Because, like, there's a thing with the warehouse. You can't chalk that up to RSD. Like, they were underwater. Right? And I feel like... yeah, no, there's no way. It doesn't work. But, like, what is going on here? I'm super confused. I guess there's just, like, some overlap between, like, what Takeshi does in his routes and what he does in the kids' routes. It just happens off screen, so we don't know about it. Like, that's the sort of boring, plausible explanation. But, like, I want to imagine there's something, like, really fucky going on here. I started walking toward the exit. As the distance between myself and Takeshi grew, I couldn't hear what he said. Only one thing reached me. Clone Law. And then my vision twisted crazily. Wait, maybe the attack hit before his voice did. I didn't know, but in any case, I lost my sense of balance. I couldn't tell what was up or down. It was such a sudden change that it threw me. I felt an urge to vomit, and a headache. Who are you? Who am I? It was my voice, but it wasn't mine. I lost consciousness. I crashed to the floor. Was it me that fell? Or someone else that wasn't me? I felt myself sinking into the ground. Was I sinking? Or was the floor trying to swallow me? I didn't know. Clone Law? C-L-O-N-E Law? C-O-L-N-E-L-A-W? C-L-O-N-E-L-A-W? I melted into the pure white darkness. I'm super confused. Clone Law? Yes, the Clone Law. I don't know. I forgot. In 2010, human cloning, which has been illegal up until then, was allowed by law. Currently, as long as anyone receives the approval of the authorities, cloning may be used as a method to treat infertility. They take the nucleus from an already cultivated somatic cell, and then insert it into an egg that has had its original nucleus removed. They then implant it into the mother's womb. Oh, that's right, I remember now. You understand? But what does it have to do with this? Clones develop separately. In other words, they're different entities. They're not the same person, they're more like twins. But their source is the same. Sora spoke almost casually. Let's go back to what we were talking about. I am omnipresent. There can be several of me existing in the same space at the same time. For example, in front of you and in front of Koko. There and here, there are two of me. But they're definitely not W. But why? Why? You see, please think of it this way. What if you could be copied exactly, just the way you are? For instance, what if every recollection, thought, feeling, character trait, personality, and emotion that's etched into your mind? In other words, your whole intelligence could be perfectly, exactly extracted, and then duplicated in some kind of storage medium, even reproducing all of your abilities. Then, where's the real you? The you who stays in your body, is that the real you? Or is the duplicate character in fact you? The answer is, in any case, the real you does exist in both. Yes, you've divided into two. Historically, and from that moment forward, the two of you are traveling down the line axis as a separate entity. Or as separate entities, rather. But if you turn around and look at the journey you've taken, you'll see that at one point the two of you were joined together. It is split like a Y, with 2 points emerging from one line, not a W with 2 separate points of origin. You may be unable to imagine two of yourself splitting apart and going different ways at a particular moment, which we'll use as a reference point. But that is something that's already happened. You're always constantly approaching a choice in each present moment that becomes the past the instant you visited. Will you choose path A? Will you choose path B? The you that's standing here may have come down path A, but in another time axis, there may be a you who's going down path B. And both the you on path A and the you on path B are both still you. Except that the you on path A doesn't know about the you on path B, because there's no way to know. In the same way, the you on path B probably isn't aware of the you on path A either. You know why this is? Tell me if this is basically it. The me on path A that you're talking about is one of the branches of the Y, and the me on path B is the other branch. To make it easier to understand, let's say this is all two-dimensional or on a flat plane. In this case, both my A and B selves would be two-dimensional beings. As two-dimensional beings, they wouldn't have an accurate awareness of their two-dimensional world at any time. Just like a person in a three-dimensional world can't keep track of all 6 sides of a die in real time. That means, let's see. Dang, I lost my train of thought. In other words, basically it means this. The person at one end of the Y and the person at the other end of the Y branch can't really be aware of each other in real time. In order to know what's happening at the other end of the Y, you have to extract yourself from the two-dimensional plane and view the Y from a three-dimensional space. Until you can do that, even if you understand it mentally, there's no way to confirm whether both A and B selves exist. Well, that's just about right. Okay, so taking that as, not gospel necessarily, but the basis for which we can theorize about the nature of the story, the sort of obvious takeaway from that is the 4 different routes are different timelines, essentially. They're all happening chronologically at the same time, but no, each of the 2 routes on any character's path is happening at the same time. But the 2 routes can't be happening at the same time as each other because the kid is a different age. So either, like, one kid is a clone of the other one, but then the timing doesn't work out, right? Because you can't clone legally until 2010, which would make the newly born clone like 7 or 6, right? So I guess you could just clone illegally, that's fine. But either way, that doesn't we still don't have an explanation for why the kid seems to be able to access memory from other timelines. Like, I don't think any of the sci-fi bullshit that they brought up so far has sort of alluded to the ability to access information from other timelines, other than the stuff about the third eye, which was intentionally presented as non-scientific in nature. Right? Like, it went on about, like, the ancient continent of Lemuria or whatever, but from the way I took it, it was not meant to be taken seriously. But maybe that's what's going on. Then each of the, like, Sora and Tsugumi are then different timelines of the same, no, but, like, it still doesn't help me reconcile the relationship between the kid's roots and Tsugumi's roots, because this conversation is from, or, no, kid's roots and Tsugumi's roots, the kid's roots and Takeshi's roots. Like, this conversation is, I think, verbatim from Takeshi's root, or from Takeshi's arcs, right, from Sora's root. And the kid's seeing it, which means that they sort of exist in the same, on the same, like, sort of 4-dimensional axis. If I'm getting that right, which I'm probably not. But, like, it still doesn't make sense because the kid is different ages, so they're not happening at the same time, but they are happening at the same time. Like, either one of the stories isn't happening at 27, or in 2017. There are 2 kids as a result of cloning or something. But the kid's only superpower is supposed to be, like, this ability to see infrared light. Like, maybe the ability to see infrared light is somehow connected to this 4th-dimensional nonsense? I don't know. I'm super lost. I think I've said that, like, what, 4 times this video now, but it's still true. To pick up there, Sora said this in a matter-of-fact tone. As you've just been saying, until it being existing in a two-dimensional... Until it being existing in the second dimension removes itself from the second dimension and views it from the third dimension space above. That person will never fully be able to grasp the second dimension. When that individual gets out of the second dimension, only then does he realize that there's another of himself on another branch of the Y. And realize too that there's another you who took a different branch of the Y. Let's try to pull this together. In order to be fully aware of one's dimension, one must be able to view it from the next dimension, n+1, one dimension removed. Of course, this also applies to three-dimensional space. For a person to be fully aware of the third dimension, he or she needs to enter the fourth dimension. In other words, for you to realize that there's another of yourself that has branched off, you must get into the fourth dimension and look down into the third dimension. In this case, the fourth dimensional space becomes a type of Minkowski space, but let's not get into that. So with this, I think I've gotten you to understand that there can be versions of yourself with different histories, in different worlds and existing in different spaces. You're omnipresent in this world, and in the same way, so am I. You and I, we're just branches of the Y. However, your divided selves can become one. If the self you don't know were to become inseparably bound with you, if you could stand in a place where you could see and understand all the others that were you, then all the experiences of your other selves would become like your own experiences. Yeah, so this is where you lost me. Because the series, as I read it, has not provided a mechanism for that yet. Like, all of the sort of weird sci-fi nonsense, like, hyper-realistic, or hyper-advanced AI, hyper-realistic virtual reality, or RSD, the disease that makes you immortal, the ability to see infrared light. Like, all of these are sort of outward. I was playing with a rubber bandage that shot off into the distance. All these abilities are sort of outside the scope of, like, what the real world has, which implies to me that they're important in figuring out the mystery because, like, they're essentially like the tools that I've been given to figure out what's going on with. But none of the tools feel like they would let you do that, right? Like, none of those things let you access information from other timelines under any interpretation of the abilities that I can think of. Like, maybe if you have hyper-advanced AI, you can also, like, simulate other realities to, like, an absurd degree of precision. But that seems like, A, a stretch, and B, not plausible. Like, the amount of processing power required to simulate the entirety of reality, or even just simulate all of Limu, if that's, like... If we want to go, like, put on a tinfoil hat for a second, like, we could hypothesize that the reason they're trapped in Limu is to have a smaller environment for simulation, right? Like, this is not a theory I'm at all attached to, by the way, or, like, a theory that I think is actually going to be true. But, hypothetically, you could imagine a scenario in which you have, sort of by a similar token as this, like, hyper-advanced AI, you have hyper-advanced, sort of, reality modeling, and then you trap these people in Limu because, like, maybe your modeling isn't that good, so you can't model the entire world, but maybe you can model one building. And if nothing comes in or out of the building, then I don't know. I feel like I'm reaching super deep for this, and it still doesn't really answer all of my questions. Even if it's true, which I'm pretty sure it isn't. Because I pulled all of that out of my ass. In the truest sense, you would become one. I let out a long sigh. Listen, can I ask you something? Please do. Why are you telling all this to me? That's a good question. Sora did a somersault in space and smiled. It's a legend. It has to do with the origin of Limu, and the mythical Lemurian continent. Let's just leave it at that. And you must understand it is a secret. Sora held up one finger in front of her mouth. And then, without a sound, she vanished. For a while, I just stood there lost in thought. There was doorbell ditching and eating and running, but I figured there wasn't a word like chat and run or debate and ditch. But that was exactly what Sora had just done to me. Oh well. Letting out a sigh, I made for the exit. As I walked, I reflected back on what Sora had said. Clones, dividing selves, walking in different times, simultaneous copies of Sora. Ubiquitous Sora? I wonder if Sora was trying to say that everything was all the same. So maybe Sora, with all her incomprehensible and special attributes, not having oneself, was really not all that different. I wonder if that was what Sora had wanted to say. I wasn't sure, but I didn't see much use in thinking anymore about things that I didn't understand. That's when it happened. Squish. My foot came into contact with something soft. It felt as if I was stepping on a person. That's not a person, is it? One of my feet was standing on the kid's small back. Hey, kid, you alright? I kneeled down next to him and raised his body up. Huh? You see, this is the original kid. I'm super confused. So, the kid's, like, I guess his consciousness is, like, jumping between the two sets of timelines, but that doesn't explain why he was, like, seeing things from Koko's perspective in his last Vision Quest. Right? Or why he was able, or why he was watching the events of that unfold in the warehouse. Because in his dream, he, like, described exactly what happened. But the kid, like, this kid wasn't there. Man. Every time I feel like I'm like, getting closer to figuring out what's going on, I, like, realize that I'm not any closer, and that the world hates me. Huh? Takeshi. What do you mean, Takeshi? What are you doing collapsed in a place like this? Place like this? The kid bounced up like he'd been shocked. Oh, yeah. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden my head hurt and then I fell down here. Your head? That could be bad news. No, I'm alright. I think a little bit of sleep refreshed me. You sure? You sure you're fine? Yeah. But my back kinda hurts. I decided not to tell him that I'd been stepping on it. And I'm starved. My stomach won't stop growling. Yeah, you and me too. Both, kid. Like, I'm not gonna lie. After I finish recording this video, I'm, like, immediately gonna go preheat my oven to make a frozen pizza. It is, in fact, providing me perverse incentives to end the video quicker. But I'll stick it out till the end for y'all. Never say I don't do anything for ya. I see. Well, if you got an appetite, then you're probably okay, but maybe you should have Sora take a look at you. Healthy people don't just get headaches and collapse all of a sudden. Hey, are you listening to what I'm saying? What? Takeshi, you worry too much. I said I'm fine. Just a little anemic is all. But if it's not that, then I'm probably tired or hungry. Anyway, right now the only thing that hurts is my back. Yeah, I just can't bring myself to tell him that I stepped on it. But enough about that, let's get to the kiosk. I'm starving. Saying that, the kid made for the exit, walking briskly. Shrugging, I watched him go. I was famished as well, but there was one more place I had to go before I went to the kiosk. Of course, it was to see Tsugumi. Her surgery was done a long time before Sora's talk about W and Y, over 7 hours before. I'd asked Sora about Tsugumi's condition. It required a total of 40 stitches and will take 2 months to heal completely. Until a rescue team arrives at Limu and we can get her out of here, she'll have to rest. So I imagine that Tsugumi will have to rest until a rescue team comes so she can get out of Limu. We were lucky there was no damage done to her brain or organs. Only her right thigh was injured. Maybe only wasn't the best way to put it. In any case, she had a compound fracture and had a severed artery. If we had taken any longer to treat her, she might have died from blood loss. I was thankful to you from the bottom of my heart. I entered the infirmary. Tsugumi was sleeping quietly on the bed in the far side of the room. It wasn't my first time to visit her since the surgery. I've been in and out from that afternoon to evening again and again. Thinking about it then, it seemed to me that the reason Sora had suddenly called me and explained about the whole W and Y thing had probably been to take my mind off of Tsugumi. Her condition hadn't changed. She looked peaceful and was breathing steadily. A white blanket was covering her and her foot peeked out from under it. She had a cast and bandage wrapped around her right leg. It looked painful. The smell of medicine continued to assault my nose. The scene was fairly raw, with traces still visible of where blood had been wiped away. I reached my hand under the blanket and gently took Tsugumi's palm in my hand. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. All I could do was repeat that mantra over and over to resting Tsugumi. After eating dinner at the kiosk, the four of us, you, Koko, the kid, and myself, moved to the rest area. The kid started. Whoa, wait! Ow, ow, ow! The kid was chasing Pee-Pee around as they wove around the statues. They all looked like they were having fun. You decided. I'm gonna go look in on Sora. Head for the control room. Koko. No, I didn't see Koko anywhere. I decided to look into the nearby kiosk. But she wasn't there. No one was. I emerged in the corridor. Squinting, I looked down to the corridor to where it became a T, only there was no sign of anyone. Nearby was the entrance to the Lemurian ruins. The door was open. I could could hear a small splashing sound coming from the area. I entered the room as if it were inviting me in. Koko was standing in the center of the room. She was standing on a stone that was just above the water's surface, her feet together. Koko. Koko lifted her face. She looked lonely. I approached her. What are you up to? Koko just stood there silently, eyes on the surface of the water. Looking closer, I saw that she was clutching something in her left hand. Then Koko took something in her right hand and let loose with it, tossing it into space. Splish. With a light splashing sound, as something hit and sank in the water. It disappeared amidst a circle of expanding ripples. Splish. Koko threw something again. There was a small spray of water. The light reflection on the water shook uncertainly. Splish, splish, splish. Just as the waves were about to die away, Koko launched something into the water. But the area was dark and I couldn't see what it was. Hey, Koko? What is that? Koko opened her hand and showed me. In her palm were tiny, pebble-sized pellets. I wondered if they were glass. They were transparent and shaped like water droplets. They were shaped like crystal teardrops. That's how they looked. It was as if she had a handful of tears. Glass tears? Koko flicked one of them with the tip of her finger. Splish. And the tear stunk in the water. You know, I've been thinking about Tsugumi. Koko said that, ignoring my question. It's my fault. What? Tsugumi, she was just trying to save me. She was trying to help me. That's why Tsugumi... Koko's shoulders shook. Really, I should have been the one hurt. No. If Tsugumi hadn't saved me, I might have been dead. Splish. The tear traced an arc through the air before falling into the water. Tsugumi... I wonder if she's angry. Don't be silly. Why would Tsugumi be angry with you? Even if you were angry at anyone, it would be me. I mean, my carelessness caused everything. I'm the one to blame. I thought that the sadness Koko was feeling, that was all my fault as well. No. It's not your fault. It was me. I'm to blame. It's because I wasn't paying attention. That's why Tsugumi had to get hurt instead of me. Koko let the tears she was holding fall, scattering below her. A burst of white spray erupted from the water's surface below her. Takepyon! Jumping off of the rock, Koko came bounding into my chest. I'm gonna go apologize to Tsugumi. I'm gonna go tell her that I'm sorry. That I'm sorry, just real sorry. Koko continued to bury her face in my chest, crying. Koko's tears seeped into my skin and into my core, like rain falling on my heart. Cold rain. The many ripples on the water continued to fan out, never disappearing. Koko and I went to the infirmary. Inside the room was silent. We approached Tsugumi's bed carefully so as to not make a sound. Tsugumi's eyes were open. She turned her face toward us. What? We came to see how you're doing. How are you? Same as I look. No more, no less. I see. Is that all? No. I didn't know how to say what had to be said. I didn't think that just saying I'm sorry and bowing my head would get my feelings across. I wanted to choose my words carefully. But I came because I wanted to apologize to you, Tsugumi. Koko opened her mouth before I could speak. Apologize? Yes. Because you were trying to help me. So that's why I have to say I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And besides that, I wanted to say thank you. I wanted to say sorry and thank you. Sorry and thank you, Tsugumi. Koko's voice shook and she almost sobbed as she tied her words together. Tah, silly girl. Tsugumi's expression hinted at a smile. Koko, you don't have to say thank you. Of course, you don't have to apologize either. Because you didn't do anything wrong, Koko. But... Please don't look so sad, alright? Koko extended one of her arms from the bed. She touched her palm to Koko's cheek. Everything happened because it was supposed to. It's no one's fault. I'd never seen Tsugumi be so nice, so gentle. Her piercing gaze and sharp tongue, they could have belonged to an entirely different person. For an instant I wondered what would have happened if I'd come to see her alone. Maybe Tsugumi was opening up to Koko. Hey, Koko, try to remember that time and what happened. Who was it that asked Koko to hold the pipe? It was... me. I asked you to. So the reason you were standing there was because I told you to. So it was my fault. That has nothing to do with it. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it doesn't. So that would mean that me pushing you out of the way and all those scrap metals falling, that was nobody's fault, right? You know, the cause and effect of things works. If you look for the cause, it just leads everywhere, to no end. The cause of the cause of the cause, chasing after that and thinking in that way is kind of pointless, right? That's why I said what I did. Everything happens because it was supposed to. Besides, what I did helped minimize the number of injuries, and I think it was a good decision. I helped you, and I'm still alive. So that makes everything okay, okay? You see what I'm saying? After thinking it over for a while, Koko nodded without much confidence. It's alright if you don't understand it right now. You're probably too young to understand it yet. Anyway, just don't blame yourself. Don't get that sad look, either. Tsugumi gently pinched Koko's cheek with her fingers. Alright, you got it? Yeah. Koko furrowed her brow and gave a solid nod. Looking for a good time to chime in, I finally found my voice. Tsugumi had said it was all nobody's fault, but I still felt I had to apologize to her. I was the one who had created the opportunity that made the accident possible. What is it? Tsugumi's expression was as mild as before. Tsugumi, just as I was about to say I was sorry. Wee-oo, wee-oo. The shrill sound of a warning siren rang loudly in my ears. What's that? Oh no, not more flooding! Koko's face went pale. Focusing her eyes on one point of the wall, Tsugumi raised her body up. Wait, Tsugumi, what are you doing? I'm gonna see what's going on. Stupid, you have to rest! You can't go moving around! I'm fine, this injury's no big deal. No big deal?! You are really something. I can't believe you're so stupid! Just stay here and take it easy. I'll go check things out. But, no buts. Got it? I don't want you moving an inch. Because you do, and you have to deal with me. Put my hand on Tsugumi's shoulder and laid her back on the bed. As soon as I figure out what's going on, I'll come back. Don't worry, everything will be fine. Saying that, I jetted out of the room. And, to find out what Takeshi finds about the situation, and to continue listening to this melodious siren, I suppose you'll all have to tune in tomorrow, because this is as far as I go. My hunger has finally, overwhelmed my desire to continue recording this video. And I crossed an hour, so it's not my fault. I'm not at fault here. I'm not in the wrong here, society is. Anyways, I'm out. Catch y'all later. Peace.